Hey, everybody. So if you have been hanging out with us for the last couple seasons of the podcast, you probably remember us mentioning Flaututi in our past episodes. Our friend Molly Sharp, who incidentally was also a guest in season 1, started Flaututi to share her awesome duet arrangements of standard viola rep, which are great for teaching, and it has now grown into a wide-ranging catalog of one-of-a-kind resources for violists and beyond. Steph, do you remember when we played one of the duets from a holiday bundle together?
Yes, it's one of my most cherished holiday memories.
Aww.
But actually, one of my favorites is something that all string instrumentalists would love. It's called Making Double Stops Ring, a guided exploration of just intonation. And Molly actually shared the viola version with us last year, and I am not exaggerating when I say that it completely changed the way I think about intonation. No one has ever explained it to me like this before. I think that we all realize on some level that a B in all situations is not the same, but why?
Yeah. Have you ever had that classic argument in a string quartet setting when you're trying to tune a chord and maybe we're playing that B and we're being told, no, it needs to go lower. No, it needs to go higher. It needs to go here. Wouldn't it be amazing to save all those hours for our string quartet students with no debate? We just know where it's supposed to go. Everyone agrees because there's only one way.
Right. You can just gift them copies of this book.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing personal. Just here's a book about intonation. Well, Molly has made it easy for all of us to play in tune. So whether you play viola, violin, cello, or bass, there's a version for you. You can find this pragmatic book, viola duet arrangements of classic viola repertoire, and so much more at vlatutti.com under Marketplace, or look in this episode's show notes. I have freakishly long arms, if that means anything to you.
Ooh, well, that's a good thing on viola, though.
Yeah.
You know what, though? I kind of have long arms, too. It always got me in trouble wearing shorts in school because you had that rule of like,
I know what you
know what I'm talking about? And they'd be like, your shorts have to be below your fingertips. I'm like, okay, but they'd be to my knees. That's ridiculous. I'm not going to wear shorts to go to my knees. Like, what's wrong with you?
I love finding these things we have in common. Welcome to the Viola-centric podcast. We are two curious violists exploring the art of connection through conversations with each other and our friends. I'm Stephanie Knutson.
And I'm Liz O'Hara Starr, and we're both professional freelance musicians living in the DC metro area. Okay, so should we do this?
Okay.
Should we kick it off? Obviously, being a freelance musician these days is a little tough. We are coming at you with our very first episode during a worldwide pandemic. I think it's important to acknowledge that this has been a really challenging time for people in our profession. Most of us are not doing work regularly. So, it's opened the door for some creativity and for some exploration, at least in our lives, right, Stephanie? Mm-hmm. That's how this sort of got started.
Yeah, that's exactly what this was born from. It's just like desperation, basically. I don't know about you, Liz, but when this all started, it's kind of like the floor drops out from under you. Mm-hmm. I had lots of performances canceled. You were like, okay, well, maybe this is a good opportunity for me to get into some stuff that I'd never played before. Maybe this is the time where I'm going to finally learn that sixth Bach cello suite, which is actually what I started with at the beginning of this ordeal. And that was great. It was great for a while. And I got back into some etudes that I hadn't finished. And I practiced some scales. And I was actually feeling really, really good about my playing, ironically, in the summer. And I think what we both experienced around about the same time was that we were missing making music with another person. Mm-hmm. And so, Liz, I don't know exactly how this came about the first time, but we were like, we need to play duets together.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll order some duets. And you ordered some duets, and we finally got together to play.
And it was just so nice. I just want to circle back to what you said about your initial experience with what happened back in March. And I think I was going like 100 miles an hour in my life before this hit. And so what I describe it as is it's almost like that car slammed into a brick wall in mid-March because everything I had on my calendar essentially disappeared in about a 5-day span. And I had a similar reaction. I knew I wanted to maintain my relationship with my viola, and I realized that I could actually have the type of relationship with my instrument that I hadn't had maybe since I was a student, where I could just play and explore. And I was fortunate to have I'm going to give a shout out to Molly Sharp and Vlad Tudi. She created this warm-up group that we met on Zoom every other day. I started exploring Alexander technique for the first time. I changed my setup finally, which is something I had been wanting to do for years, and I couldn't get the time to just train my muscles in a different way. And so there was all of that. And then, you and we've worked together so much. We've sat together so many times in orchestra, and it's always been so much fun. Mm-hmm. And, but we had never really had the opportunity to make time to spend together outside of gigs, right? So to actually get together and just spend time with each other and then play music and feel like, oh, maybe there's something here.
Yeah, well, we were just having so many good conversations, and they just flowed so easily, and it was all conversations that I felt like we're really getting at something, like at something that you don't get the chance to do when you're talking at break or even at the bar having a glass of wine or whatever. You just don't get the chance to get into it, which is, I think, what we both kind of realized and latched onto. Like, we are making connections here through our conversations. And wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if we could share those conversations with other people?
Yes.
Right? I mean, everybody wants to experience a conversation with someone who knows what you are doing, what you are going through. And I think we all yearn for that connection in that way. So we were like, let's start a podcast.
Yeah, like, why not? If you're not familiar with viola, which many people are not, if you're in an elevator with someone and you have your case on your back and they're not a musician, they will often say, oh, is that a violin? And when you say, no, it's a viola, well, actually, I don't know about you, but I often just nod my head yes, because usually if I say, no, it's a viola, the response will be like, oh, what is that? So for those who don't know, it's like a tiny cello, but you play it like a violin. That's how I like to describe it.
Oh my God. Okay, so let me tell you my elevator pitch. My elevator pitch about viola. I'm like, no, it's a viola. What's that? Well, if you imagine a chorus, it's like the alto voice in the chorus. It looks like a violin, but it's a little bit bigger, and you still play it on your shoulder, unlike a cello, which you play between your legs.
Perfect. Yep. We've all got them. We've all got the succinct, like...
I love it. That's so funny.
Actually, you know what, Stephanie? I'm very curious to know your origin story with viola. I feel like I've shared mine with you. I was in 4th grade, and I'm going to give a shout out to public schools who still have string programs because, man, oh man, my life would be... I don't even like to think about what my life would be like if it weren't for my string teachers in elementary school. Then I was going to play the violin because that's what everybody does when they're little. And then my teacher played the viola. And as a 9-year-old, there was just something about the way this instrument sounded. I went home and I said to my parents, I would really like to try this. So we went out and we got a rental and that was it. The viola is this... it's just this integral part of who I am. And I think the reason I was drawn to it was because it accessed something in me that even as a little kid, I couldn't really articulate. I just knew that it was something that I could relate to, or it could relate to me perhaps. And it's been that way ever since, I think that's where viola-centric has come from. So yeah, that's my origin story. How about yours?
Love it like a superhero.
Yeah, yes, well, we all have one.
We all have one. That's the truth.
That's right.
Mine isn't quite as fatalistic as yours. I was one of those kids who I also started out in the public school system. I was in fourth grade, and I went to the assembly where they played all the instruments, and I chose the violin.
Mm.
And I stuck with that choice all the way up through college. I was a music education major, and I got my degree in violin. But what brought me over to the dark side, which is what they say. That's what they said at the time. But now I know that it's the opposite. I decided that I wanted to try viola on my senior recital, and I just fell in love. And there was no turning back for me. All you violists out there, you know that it is just a sound that you can't go back. Once you experience it, for certain people, it's just like, what was I doing before this? And honestly, I've played maybe a couple gigs on violin, but everything that I've done professionally that I've earned money for has been on viola. I haven't looked back. Like I said, I haven't looked back.
Oh, I love that.
It's my true voice. It's my true voice.
I have been, as you can imagine, and I know you know this because I keep we send each other links all the time now, but some of the things I found that describe the viola as this inner voice kind of role talk about, and this is true, I've heard this always, that the viola actually is the closest to the human voice. The register of the viola is the closest to the human voice. But this concept that it goes deeper than that, that actually the sounds, they connect with something underneath the physical voice and go deeper into, who we are as human beings.
Yeah. And just to build on that, I don't think that it's unique to violists to have an inner voice and to have a way of accessing it, because we've talked to plenty of musicians who, and I think a lot of musicians can relate to this statement that music is a way to express things that you cannot express, that are inside of you, that you just can't or don't want to put into words. So I think music is a tool that helps us all access our inner voices. And for you and I, it just happens that we play an instrument that is oft referred to as an inner voice. And it's a beautiful, just kind of tie-in.
Yeah. Tying into connection. By being this inner voice role, we are geared to connect things together. We're geared to hold things together. And I know my driving force through life is connection. And I think we've talked about how that's kind of true for everybody, and why being in this time is so difficult, because we had our traditional ways of connecting were taken away. And it's impossible to replicate the level of human interaction that we have when things are normal. But we've explored this way of building connection even now, and hopefully can share that out into the world. This isn't exclusive to even musicians alone. And I think the desire to connect is something that every human being feels. If we can be facilitators of those connections, I think that would be a very special part of this for me, is the joy that you and I have in connecting together on our own, either through just conversation or through the music that we're going to be playing periodically throughout the year, or our conversations with our guests, or eventually, interaction with anyone who's listening and is interested in what we're saying or sharing.
Oh my gosh, yes. We want to hear
everything,
all of your thoughts. Email us at violacentric@gmail.com.
Yeah.
If you have anything that you're curious about, that you would love to hear us explore, your own insights about expressing your inner voice. Hell, we'll even open it up to your favorite viola joke.
Yeah.
We're not taking ourselves seriously here.
No, we're not.
We know the elephant in the room. Violists are often the butt of like everyone's joke. Everyone's got a favorite viola joke. Lay it on us. We can take it. But yeah, we want to connect with you. We want to connect with anybody who is curious about exploring these subjects with us. And we also want to share amazing music making with you.
Yes, which is, of course, something that's coming up very soon as our first live stream concert.
You're going to be hearing our conversations with my collaborator, Chris DeChiara.
DeChiara.
He told me how to pronounce his name. You have to do like the chef's
Yeah.
kiss emoji while you're saying it. Anyway, he's a percussionist with the U.S. Navy Band.
I am going to be playing with one of my very best friends, Michael Hall, who is the principal horn of the National Philharmonic in Bethesda, Maryland. And he's a fellow freelancer. So we hope you enjoy our conversation with Michael and Chris. And
please tune in to our live stream. It's going to be at 7 o'clock Eastern on our Viola-centric Facebook page.
And we will talk to you next time.
We'll see you on the 17th.
So here we are with these two guys, these two friends of ours. Michael Hall is a dear friend of mine. We've been friends for several years now. He's the principal horn of National Philharmonic and a brilliant player, musician. Gosh, I feel like the first time we actually spent any time together was partaking in some festive celebratory beverages after my wedding, was it not?
I believe it was.
And
some fireball shots.
Oh, it sounds so good right now.
Look, I wasn't going to say it, but yeah.
That was before they discovered that they were using like airplane propellants or something in there to.
Oh, really?
I don't know what
that
exactly
explains
what it
everything.
was,
Yeah, ever since Michael and I met, I feel like we've always just gotten along so wonderfully. We're kind of on the same wavelength, and absolutely. I don't know, so many of my most wonderful life conversations have happened with you, and I'm just very thankful that you're available and willing and that we get to have you with us. So thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you for that lovely introduction, and I am very honored and delighted to be a part of this vision of yours coming to fruition. And I'm so excited that you and Stephanie are working together. It just makes so much sense, and you two are such amazing women.
Power duo.
So speaking of Chris, since he's been interjecting here, I better introduce him.
You don't have to.
This is Chris. Chris, can you settle it all for everyone who's wondering how you actually pronounce your last name? Because there's been lots of debate.
The Americanized way is DeChiara.
Ooh.
But if you want to get all operatic, it's DeChiara.
Ooh, I like that. DeChiara.
DeChiara. My dad's from Naples, so.
Oh, okay.
Very Italian.
Well, so Chris is a percussionist with the U.S. Navy Band, and he has various other exploits that he's involved in. Lots of tribute bands, cover band, Beatles tribute band. I mean, your fingers are in all the pies, so to speak, and which means that you have so much varied experience and in musicianship. And honestly, I have been dying to collaborate with you for a while.
And it's been awesome.
It's been so fun.
Make it easy.
Oh.
I mean, you never know what it's going to be like. I mean, you could like someone and be friends with them, and you know they're a great player, but just personality-wise too, and you know how you work with someone could be completely different.
Definitely.
So, I mean, it's just been easy.
Oh, good. So you weren't super scared when I first asked you?
I was. Not because of you by any means. I was like, yes! Bach! No! It's just the worst thing for percussionists. Because it's, like I told you before, you know, you're playing violin parts on marimba.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the hardest thing to play. You know, every single note is perfection. and you just trying to not hit any wrong notes. Honestly, never mind all the other stuff that you have to do, like actually make music. But of course, you have to get it past all the note stuff and the whole psychology of that. We could talk for days about all that stuff, but
we were talking about this just yesterday, Chris, Stephanie and I, about how you have to be so visual because you're doing so much, and the coordination that's involved in that is really kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
especially when you're doing four mallet stuff, like the G minor partita or fugue is like the hardest thing in the world to play for percussionists. But the inventions aren't too bad.
I totally agree with you about Bach too, and I think it's one of the things that I love to teach my students. I love to teach them solo Bach because every note counts. There's just complexity in every single figure, and so it's nice to hear you say that, because I realize that's something that I just enjoy so much about it, but also there's such an importance to it that maybe you can get away with other
for sure
genres.
For sure.
I actually wrote some thoughts down last night because, and hopefully I don't get myself confused.
I just love you.
But I just love how you two have tapped into your own professional experience as the inner voice of the string family. And I mean, a string quartet, you are the inner voice. In an orchestra, you're the inner voice that blends with and enhances so many other voices. Often, which would be me in the horn section.
Yeah.
And I might add that you two do that quite well. So you're taking your professional experience in that regard, and you are exploring like what a thought-provoking metaphor that can be for really one of the most fundamental and yet also somehow one of the most elusive aspects of the entire human experience, expressing ourselves from the heart or living out who we truly are on the inside, which is why I'm really excited that you asked me to be a part of this conversation, because you and I have shared so many conversations together, which was really about bringing out the inner voice, getting past all the noise.
Mm-hmm. And I think I don't think any of us are past that,
No, of course not.
It's an everyday struggle for me to get past those inner voices, the bad inner voices, and really be authentic in my experience, like, for example, my collaboration with you, Chris, there's a lot of adjustments that need to be made, right? Because the articulation of our two instruments are completely different. Yours is a percussive, it has an impact sound. It ends up being a lot shorter than your average viola sound. So how do I speak with my viola voice and yet still blend with your amazing marimba sound? So it's just a struggle. Like, do I clip it? Do I play shorter? How do I make my intentions known in this other way? It's a really unique exercise in collaborating with you, and I just am loving every minute of it. I mean, it's a completely different experience, and you're such a great musician, and I can't wait for people to hear our collaboration.
Yeah.
Me neither.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's been really fun to hear those sample recordings, and I know it's just like scratching the surface, because it's just like, oh, this part is kind of set up now, and this part is kind of set up, and tomorrow Michael and I are going to get into the space, and we're going to play around and see what it feels like for our blend, which is going to be different. But that's something that's interesting as a violist, how much of our instincts are that flexibility and that malleable nature that we have in order to try and really blend, and fit, and
100%. Yes. Yeah, it's like it's such an instinctual part of my playing that it's almost hard to find out what your inner voice actually is, because the nature of your instrument is such that your job is to blend and glue other voices together. So it's no wonder that we often have an identity crisis, right? Like, are we a soloist? Are we a supporter? Are we both? which role am I playing now? It's just,
Even just to listen back to Stephanie and me in recordings, just these sample recordings we've done, and I'm going, oh my gosh, that's like beautiful, but there is a blend to it that just happens. It's not like we've ever played just the two of us before, but it's there, which is really nice.
it's fun to flex that muscle too. We're playing a duet by Mazas, and it's something I've never played before, but it really gives you the opportunity to be a soloist. Each part, it trades off in that way.
Cool.
And so that's been kind of fun, just to let it all loose and be a soloist for once. Like I said, it's a muscle that we don't flex very often. I'm curious what you do. What's your head game like to get yourself ready to play in front of the band day after day after day?
It's a good question. Playing in front of the band a couple times helps, but in terms of like mentally, in rehearsals, I never really think too much about that stuff. It's the performances. If we take it on tour and I have to practice it or perform it multiple times in front of a lot of people, it bugs me all day. I don't know about you guys, but I was telling Stephanie this. When I was an undergrad, I was kind of fearless because I didn't think about anything else. Like, nothing concerned me. Nobody concerned me. So I never really thought about that stuff. I was like, if someone walked in the room when I was practicing, I loved it. I was almost kind of like showing off, I think. But nowadays, it's like I gotta think of stuff to get me ready for a performance, whether it's some kind of mental exercise or breathing. But I think the main thing is knowing your parts so well. I mean, we've heard this a million times, but just knowing it so well that you can always get back on if something happens, and you know where those spots are in the whole piece. Michael Colgrass actually has a book about performance anxiety called My Lessons with Kumi, where he went into like the Himalayas and studied with some like Karate Kid Mr. Miyagi guy and thought he was completely off his rocker and, stuck with him for a while and then just learned all these things about performing. And one of the exercises was, it sounds stupid, but before you walk on stage, something you can do really quick was just look at a picture of something that makes you smile and, walk out on stage. I can't think of anything else, but I remember doing that one a while back, just looking at a picture of my nephew.
Oh,
And it made me smile, and I walked out and played some Scarlatti thing on marimba.
Yeah, I was going to say, I was actually going to toss this over to Michael because I think about this a lot when you're sitting in a principal horn role. I mean, the level of pressure in a solo on that instrument is phenomenal. Maybe it gives me even greater appreciation for those gorgeous solos because you're like,
Yeah, me too.
I mean, you're like, my God, like to just emerge from some intense thing that's happening in Shostakovich, for example, and then hear this like beautiful solo come out, or anything we're playing symphonically. And so yeah, in the whole world of performance and head game and all of that, like where do you fall? What are your go-to things?
I'm having flashbacks right now.
His anxiety attacks.
Oh yeah, I mean certainly playing horn and especially playing principal horn has been compared to a tightrope walk. And there's definitely been some psychology that I've had to learn in that. And some of the Don Green stuff has certainly helped me maybe formalize some of my thinking on that. He talks about how the adrenaline that you have when you're performing can actually enable you to play at a higher level than you ever could play without it. But in terms of dealing with that, I definitely have to think of it not as nerves, but as emotional energy and something that I have to tap into to help me to get into whatever the mood of the music is that we're playing, like as deeply as I can. There's no way you can fight it. Well, sometimes you can get ahead of it and be like, nope, I'm not getting nervous. And sometimes that works, and then sometimes it doesn't. And there have been times when I felt like if I were any more panicked than I am right now, I think I would have a heart attack. But what's so cool is that you can still do what you need to do, even in that state. Or at least that's something that I think one has to learn about themselves. That, okay, even if I feel like nothing is going to work, it can still work if I fall back on the training. But then the other thing is, what's everybody going to think of me? As you guys mentioned, what are they going to think of me if I screw up? And I used to try to just, not think about that, or take a more like kind of an asshole kind of a posture. Like, well, these people don't even understand what it is that I'm doing. So if they don't like it, they can jump in a lake. But I think what's been more effective for me as time has gone on is to think of, rather than like, how good do they think I am? How can I try to share with these people the beauty of this music that I find so incredible? Like, I have this opportunity.
That's it. It's separating your ego and just doing your job as a musician.
And you're just sharing something beautiful.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
hoping that they'll be able to appreciate it as much as you do. That kind of brings me back to the question of the inner voice. And I think that's kind of, it's always been like, although it's been terrifying, it's been an opportunity for me to express myself in a way that you just don't normally get to do in day-to-day interactions. So walking that tightrope, the cost of walking the tightrope is that I get to express emotions that if I did that in a normal interaction, people would think that I was really weird.
I love that. And I often feel that way. I'm not a super non-expressive person, but you still feel like somewhat censored in your daily interactions, right? And
Absolutely.
And music is such a amazing, beautiful tool to try and express some of those things that you have inside. And that's what I just love about music. I don't know. I would explode probably if I didn't have music in my life.
Yeah, I think there's a sense in our culture in which emotions are a liability. And so if you're inclined to be emotionally expressive, that's not good in a social context. So if you have the ability to express that through your art, then awesome.
For now, we're lucky because we get to do whatever we want to do. So here we are.
We're busy taking a sabbatical right now.
Yeah, so this was more about what Michael and I talked about yesterday, this idea that this space we have that we didn't have in our lives before, for whatever that space is for. If it's just to like do very little, then great. You have this time to just relax, or you have this opportunity to be creative. And if we were in our normal lives, at this time a year ago, there's no way we'd have time to do something like this. Like there wouldn't have been room in our brains to even conceive of the possibility. And so that's a gift in a way. And what Michael was saying, Michael, you should share that story about the sabbatical, the every 7 year thing. And because I just thought that hit me so much yesterday.
Well, for the Israelites, they were supposed to every 7th year not go out and plow the fields and just let whatever grew naturally, that was it, so that they had time to kind of take a break. Although they never did that. They just couldn't, conceive of doing that. And I think it's the same for us. Like, we really could use about every 7 years or so, like something different, and not just the regular old grind, but we never managed to find a way to do that. But now it's kind of been thrust upon us. And I think so many people are so grateful for that.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I could never have conceived of taking the kind of time that I've been forced to take. I just, there would not have been a thought in my head that was something I should do, let alone could do. And obviously, I don't want to make light of of the situation that we're in as a country and around the world. And there are certainly some obviously horrendous parts of this situation, including, you know, even down to the granular of, in our profession, millions of people being under or unemployed because there's just no way to work regularly. And so I think, you know, that was the part that hit me first, that made me panic in a major way. But once the dust kind of settled and, you know, you figure out, hopefully most of us figure out how to make do, I just feel like I found this space where I could actually just like hear myself more than the voices of everything else outside of me.
Seriously. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like you just get this chance to become more aware.
Probably one of the biggest things that I've struggled with and had to find ways to overcome is with keeping my motivation going. Because you get interested in something and that gives you a lot of motivation initially, and then you get to parts of the learning process that are not interesting to you, but which are critical. And you have to somehow find the motivation. I just wonder what you guys like. Is it a struggle for you to stay motivated from year to year, month to month? And what do you do when you just don't feel motivated at all? I don't know if this is really, am I getting off?
No, it's great. Yeah. It's a great question.
No, this is great, because this is a question that I was actually going to pose in a minute, was what inspires you? Like, what lights the fire for you when you feel unmotivated? And for me, it's often things outside of classical music. Like, I just today actually discovered this new artist. Her name is Rina Sawayama.
I like that.
And her family is from Japan, but she's in England. And you have got to check out her album, especially you, Liz. I think you would dig it. But every single track on her album is in a different style. So one might be like, have this hair metal hook, and then it transitions into like bubblegum pop. And then the next one might be like electronica. This is what I mean to say is inspiring to me, because it's something creative that doesn't fit in the box, and it inspires me to, you know, clearly she gives 0 F's about what anybody thinks kind of music she should be making. So it's just an inspiration to me in my life, as far as, okay, why should I give any F's about what people think about what I do, or what music, what expression comes out of my instrument, you know? But anyway, you guys have got to check her out. She's amazing.
You know, I was just thinking about it because, you know, like I often say, and we'll probably say it several times in recordings, that Stevie Nicks is my spirit animal. And,
Wow.
oh God, I would just love to do something with my viola that's like tribute like to Stevie Nicks, but I just have never been able to like push the creative envelope in that way. And I feel myself getting closer to it. But, you know, Chris, I feel like this is a nice segue to talk about the other side of your career. We've talked a lot about your professional percussionist career aspects, but the rock band part of your life.
Yes.
But you like play pretty regularly with hair metal, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Dr. Fu,
That's
I've
right.
been in that band the longest, for about 15, 16 years, actually.
Cool.
And about 7 years ago, we decided to do this hair metal version of us.
Okay.
Which was just the same people.
Yeah.
But no one would know, because we would look completely different, and we have wigs and spandex, and some of us wear makeup, and we pretend we're from Germany. We have accents and our own names, and we play after Dr. Fu. So people, we set it up, and people think like we just flew in from Hamburg, Germany, and like on Air Force One, and we have a whole shtick. And for the first couple of years, I mean, like nobody knew it was the same people.
Really?
So,
I didn't know that detail. I thought it was just kind of like a wink, wink kind of nod.
I mean, I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world to do because there was already a hair metal, there was already a cover band that was doing a hair metal thing on the side anyway. We were like, we're going to make it way better. We're actually going to buy real wigs, not from like the Halloween store. We're going to. So we went to a wig store in Fairfax.
That's what I'm
and
talking
like spent
about.
I spent $150 on my wig. It's like, so we got pretty serious about it. And
What's become of me?
what's become of me?
What I do for my art.
Yeah, Hair Metal just did a live stream a couple months ago for Friday Night Live at Artspace, where this other group that I heard of is going to be for the first time in a couple weeks doing a live stream.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I heard someone from Hair Metal is the one who recommended our venue for our live stream, actually. So thanks for that.
Yeah. That guy, he's
all
crazy,
right.
but
He's all right.
yeah,
He's a good
he
partner
can
to
be
have in
helpful.
this thing right now.
Yeah.
For anyone who is listening to us, the live stream that we're going to play in a few days from when this gets put out is the Art Space in Herndon, and it's an art gallery with a really lovely curator named Jo, she's just been awesome to work with, and we're just so excited to be partnering with her in this adventure of ours too. And there's just so much we can do with the space, and we're just so excited for that part of it as well. We haven't touched on that much, but also so far I've been really happy with the acoustic there. I think, for recital purposes, it's really fantastic. What do you think, Stephanie?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I was worried that it would be a little dry.
Me too.
But it's got nice high ceilings. And I really think that I think our audience is really going to like it. It's an intimate kind of place. And I think our sounds are really going to resonate really well in there.
Yeah. So what's it like to have a metal band, though, in that space?
It was fun, but it's weird when there's just 5 people and like the little crew and that's it. And you hear a couple people just doing that after you've played like Rock You Like a Hurricane.
It's like, well done.
Yeah, really. Great rock and roll you just played there, folks.
Yeah. So we're going to be counting on our audience to really write in a lot of clapping hands emojis during our live stream, please.
Yeah, right.
Lots of hearts.
Yes, please. We want
Raising the roof.
so many comments, so many reactions, like all through.
If you want, like I told Stephanie this, I have an electronic pad set that triggers off certain sounds that we need. And for this, it was like, we have to get an audience to make it sound through like people. It'll sound like we're playing for like a gajillion people.
Like the roar of the crowd.
So I got all these different audiences I downloaded from the internet, and I had like all these different pads that had different audiences.
Yes. I think if we had like a screaming, raging crowd at the end of a viola duo and other concert.
Oh yeah, I could totally bring this for that. Could totally bring this. It'll be amazing. The motivation thing that Michael alluded to, like how do you find your motivation? The motivation thing is hard, especially during the pandemic for people. And I mean, if you're a musician, you have a creative mind and you think of all these other things to do. So yeah, playing hair metal tunes one night and then singing Beatles songs and then playing Shasti 5 or whatever is like the ultimate weekend.
Yeah. Sure.
But, during the pandemic, sometimes I feel no motivation, and I have like 3 projects that actually have to kind of be done, and I'm completely honored to play on my friend's album, and I can just go downstairs to play the drums and record it myself. It's like so easy to be able to do it, yet for some reason it feels like a burden in some way, and I don't know why.
I wonder if the gratification that we get through music is mainly connection. It's connection with other people, it's connection with an audience. And when there's nothing to give you that feedback, like I just connected with you. We just shared a moment.
You're totally right. when we talk on the phone, I definitely feel that connection. It's like, yeah, oh, I'm playing for this guy who's a friend of mine. We can actually talk deeply about this music, and I can actually say how incredible this music is. And then I get kind of pumped up about it.
Mm-hmm.
But when we don't have those conversations, and I know that I have to go downstairs and get into this mindset of being so focused and in the song that I'm playing the song and not thinking about it too much. I do have a chart, but I'm not looking at it that much. But I don't want to just play through it, but I really want to just make it the best thing ever. And sometimes it's hard to just get into that space. It feels like that's the burden, maybe, is to get into that kind of mental space. Because it feels like a heavy thing for me to, like, once I'm there, it's great. And I spent like 3 hours downstairs just like trying to get through one song. And everything was good. But before that, it's like hard because I know I have to enter this other world or something, or other mental state, focus.
I do love that in the classical world, we've really been forced to explore these various ways of engaging an audience that was not accessible to us when we would just play in a concert hall and leave it at that. And I don't know what our future is going to look like in that way. Like, is there always going to be the option for people to watch a live stream from this point on? How does that look? And, what sort of accessibility have we given ourselves for potential interest in new audiences and things like that? I mean, I think there's a lot of positives to be gleaned from it, but I agree with you, Chris, that it's hard to feel motivated or musically compelled because it's work. And then you're right, you can sit down and once you start, like, I'll sit there for 2-3 hours and just keep going until I get a great take. But it's certainly a different kind of work, that's for sure. Stephanie hit the nail on the head when she said connection. There's just going to be this, if people tune into that live stream and they watch us play, they will know that we are there in real time with them, and whatever they hear is what we're doing in that moment, and we're just letting it go. And
you have to get the sportscaster, I forget his name, who's noted for saying, "We're doing it live," and he was. Have you seen this?
No.
No. Michael, no. Oh my God. He.
we'll have to see if we can find the sound bite and put it in the podcast here in that moment.
That's what I'm saying. Once you see it, I got to find it now. I'm going to find it when you talk about something else. But he was caught being live because he said, like, "We're doing it live." And like he was on camera and it was live and he was like yelling at people in his staff. And he was going ballistic. And he's like now famous for saying, "We're doing it live." So if you can get that and intersperse it in this conversation,
that would be perfect. That would be perfect.
Yes,
yeah.
I'm gonna find
that would
this.
Be something
You're gonna
else.
die.
We'll do it live.
But yeah, what you said, Stephanie, about the connection is so profound, and I've just been sitting here thinking about it for the last 15 minutes, because when you play with an ensemble that is truly great, and it's like a truly, like, completely satisfying experience, it's because people are actually listening to one another and responding. It's like you can play together and do something that's extremely detailed because everyone is paying attention to one another.
Yeah, and that's what brought Liz and I together in the first place during the pandemic. We're both starving for connection through music and just wanting to play in person with another human being. And you just cannot replicate it, no matter the speed of your connection or how good the software is. We were just starving for that. So we got together and this was born of it. It's the desire to make connections with people and build a community of people who can relate to what our experience is and just have authentic conversations about these things that are happening inside of all of us, whether we're talking about them or not. And I think that's just key to the human experience, really, is that's all we're here for, is connections, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And once this is over and everyone is vaccinated and good to go, those first couple concerts are
Oh,
gonna be
yeah.
mind-blowing.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to be crying on stage.
Yes.
The audience is going to, like, I don't know, jump the stage, all like tearing their clothes off. Or
So
something.
many bras on the stage.
Like,
So many bras.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be like a rock show, except it'll be in Symphony Hall.
The most bras that an orchestra's ever seen.
Yes, I can't wait.
I can't wait either.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I
can't wait.
think about that too. And I remember people saying that last spring, like, oh, whenever we get back. And now you're thinking, oh my God, I mean,
Yeah.
it'll have been a year and a half before we get to do those kinds of things, if not longer. And I've gotten to a point where I'm okay with the moment we're in. You know, you hear people say, like, you just gotta get through it. And I understand, I really understand that. But every day is still our life. You know, as long as we're blessed enough to have a life, we're here. And those of us who want to create and want to connect are looking to find ways to do that. And that's absolutely where we're coming from with this. And
Yeah.
I took for granted all the connection I had in my gig life, you know? I mean, how many authentic conversations took place on a regular basis during breaks and afterwards having drinks, and, you know, and then the musical connection that exists in rehearsals. All of that is still available to me. It's just that you have a different platform for the time being, and hopefully a platform where we can share this in a way that anybody else who's looking for that connection can find it. So, you know, it's just so great. And I just want to say thank you to you guys for being willing to take this journey with us at the very start. These two crazy girls who 2 months ago were like, let's start a concert series and a podcast all at once and give ourselves a deadline.
No, that forces you to do it, though, you know?
Yes.
I heard a great phrase. It's connection, not perfection.
Perfect, yeah.
And I think that's what we're in it for.
Nice.
That is what we're in it. Oh, that's perfect.
Yep, that's a little mantra for before you walk on stage and you're
Yeah.
got the you know, performance anxiety.
Connection, not perfection, dear God.
Dear God,
In your wisdom, give me both, please. Please, be merciful.
The concert is at 6. Are we doing it at 6:30?
I thought we were doing it at 7.
7 o'clock? Okay.
Thought it was 7:30.
Let's keep pushing it
8
back.
o'clock, anybody?
Just kidding.
Anyway.
What? Okay, we should take a vote right here with the four of
I
us.
thought it was recorded.
Happy hour. Yeah, I thought it was pre-recorded.
Chris hasn't been listening.
What do we... Let's call... Okay, if it's happy hour... Well, we won't call it
In the
happy hour,
future, I
but
think it should be, but
it is culture and
Culture
cocktails
and
is kind of the way we wanted it to feel.
Oh, gourmet.
that's taken.
No, never mind.
Culture and cocktail.
Culture and cocktails.
If you say it like that, you'll get a lot of listeners. I'm listening.
So 7 o'clock, December 17th. Tell your mom, tell your aunt, tell your best friend, tell your college roommate, tell everybody you know, and tune in for the live event of the winter pandemic.
There it is.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Nailed it.
It's going to be on the Viola Centric live stream on Facebook, and we will have PayPal and Venmo options for anyone who wishes to contribute to the efforts of Viola Centric and the wonderful musicians who are joining us on this concert. And yeah, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to see everyone.
Me too.
You know, I think it's going to be really fun for us as musicians to be in that room. And I also can't wait to just like do the thing where we're interacting with you in between our pieces. We're so excited. I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to share before we call it a night?
Can't wait to see you there, and I can't wait to play music with you guys and listen to you.
Yeah, man. Can't wait.
Yeah, can't wait to find out what this is all about.
We'll do it live!